So good afternoon again. My name is Rebecca Hirsch. I am the Associate Vice President for Research and Innovation in the Office of Research, Innovation, and Economic Impact. And I am working with, obviously, Andre Marshall, our Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Economic Impact. And I'm delighted that we have the second year of the ORIEI seed funding. I'm going to share my screen and do a little bit of presentation before the Q&A. I'm just going to ask people to please mute themselves during this initial part of the presentation, and then you can unmute yourself, raise your hands. I am going to probably do the share my screen, but then I think probably just leave it open so that I can see people. It's a little hard to do that. And I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to share my screen. So can you let me know if you can see that? Just by somebody shouting out, yes, I can see it.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I am going to try and I won't be able to see people during this time. I think a place where I can see if somebody has their hand raised, so I will try to check that, but I'm going to do this. I've got a few slides, but it shouldn't really, most of the time I want it to be able for you to be able to ask your questions. Andre Marshall sends his apologies. Normally he would be attending this meeting. He is finishing up something that was due today and wasn't able to attend. With that, what I'll say is I should be able to answer most of the questions, having been through this last year and really part of the organizational team on this. I also want to acknowledge in the room my colleague Sheila Davis, who will be helping me with all of the technical parts of this. So you may get questions from her or from me. I'll let her introduce herself as we get going in just a little bit. But so we have, again, the 2023 seed funding into the same categories we had last year. The Building the Foundation, which is early stage research funding, and Take It to the Next Level, which is multidisciplinary research funding. I'm going to actually just talk very briefly about each of these before I get to some of the questions. As you know from the call for proposals, the goal of the Build the Foundation is to stimulate the development of new research and scholarship initiatives through the support of projects that have a high probability of attracting new external support. One of the questions you'll see, and you'll see us a little later, has to do with, it is more about the stage of the research than it is about the stage of the investigator. While it is certainly true that many of our early stage investigators or early stage faculty, early career faculty may apply for this funding, it's also possible that somebody later in their career that is taking their research to a different place or trying something new, that it would be, an early stage research funding. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in just a bit. Again, I'm not going to read this slide. This is from the call for proposals. I just wanted to highlight it here. It is due the 31st. We should have funding decisions on or about June 15th. And you'll see, again, this is not news. This is in the call for proposals. So I'm not going to necessarily spend a lot of time on this slide. Please note, and you'll see this in the next one, a faculty may not submit a proposal for both the Build a Foundation's PI and Take It to the Next Level. It is one or the other. So the Take It to the Next Level is a multidisciplinary seed funding opportunity. It is designed to take perhaps a body of research that you've been doing and scale it, take it to the next level. It's the reason for the name. We'll be funding, as we did last year, 3 of these in the 3 areas that are aligned with our research institute. Sustainability for the Institute for a Sustainable Earth, biohealth for the Institute for Biohealth Innovation, and digital innovation aligned with the Institute for Digital Innovation. It is to drive stakeholder engagement. And so in this case, a partner is also required. And it is, again, designed to secure transdisciplinary basic and translational research and scholarship organized around the topics of our 3 university level institutes. Similarly here, we have the same information that is on the call for proposals. This one is due a week later. It's due April 7th. Please note, and I'll talk about this. I think it was a little clearer in this year's call than it was in last year's. The funding is $100,000 for the funding. It also includes the tuition and health insurance for 1 doctoral student, that funding comes from our collaboration with the graduate division. It requires that the GRA stipend is paid out of the $100,000, included in the $100,000 budget. But you do not have to include the tuition and health insurance for that GRA. That will come from the graduate division. That is true for just Take It to the Next Level. It is not true for the smaller building the foundation. As I mentioned, a partnership with an outside collaborator is required. We'll talk a little bit about that in just later on in the slides. One of the things that I wanted to note, first of all, this will be not your last best time to ask questions. We wanted to provide this opportunity to get some general questions. Part of the reason that I'm recording this is I'll make the recording available on this link, but we'll also have an updated document which you can download at different times, in which where it's not a very niche or very specific question, but a question that would apply to everybody. We are going to be having a link to an updated frequently asked questions. There is one there now that was based on last year's questions, and we will be updating that after today's session. I hope to get that updated by the end of the week, so that questions that were raised that were not covered last year, I can add those to the document. I wanted to go through a couple of slides, not a couple, about probably 10 slides, that are some of the questions that were asked last year. These may be questions that you have as well, and you certainly can ask other questions. But one of the questions has to do with, in the Building the Foundation, we talk about really taking advantage of some of Mason's core facilities. Don't have to, but you know, it'd be nice if you did, or it's encouraged that you did. And these include our MRI facility, the nanofabrication facility, our visualization lab, the BRL, the Center for the Arts. It is really, the question was, you know, do we need to have letters from these core facilities? And the answer is no, they are Mason facilities. So a letter of support is not required to use those facilities, but you would want to clarify how you would be leveraging those particular facilities. Again, not a requirement, but if you do, you can certainly describe how you would use our core facilities. This is really long, and I want to, I'm not going to read this, but this has to do with kind of the difference between the stage of the investigator and the stage of the research. So there can be someone who is coming to Mason, you know, later in their career. So while they may be a recent PhD and in some ways an early career faculty member, they may not actually be an early career faculty member in terms of their own career. And again, I think sometimes the call for proposal talks about the characteristics of the applicant, but it really is a better focus to think about the stage of your research and scholarship. That is, it could be a new or early stage line of research that is new to you because you are an early career faculty member, or because you are a later faculty member and you and are building a different type of you know, research line, and you want to begin to do the seed funding for that. So again, I'm not going to read this slide. This is also in the frequently asked questions, but I wanted to just talk about that distinction that came up a lot last year. Nope, and suddenly I cannot move my slides. There we go. Talk about external partners, which are required for Take It to the Next Level. You can certainly have them and build the foundation as well. And the question last year had to do with what kinds of partners: industry, national labs, other universities. What would their role be? Could they be a co-PI? Should they be getting funding from this? And the answer to all of that is, short answer in many ways, is yes. They can be from industry, a community organization, a nonprofit, government or academic institution, a national lab, or any other external collaborator. Our goal is that we want to have collaborations with other organizations. You have the absolute flexibility to define that role, what that role would be in order to meet the goals of your particular research, scholarship, or creative activity. You can certainly budget for the partner. It would should not absolutely be the majority of it, shouldn't be basically a pass-through to the partner. But if there is a role that you believe should be compensated, then we can certainly, that can be done, and it would be done as a sub-awardee on the grant or on the funds that you get. you may want to consider asking the partner to have basically some skin in the game, and that is they could provide in-kind services or resources to be part of this, where the funding is coming basically from your organization. Just a classic question is, does this include F&A? And the answer to that is no. So you do not have to apply F&A or indirect to the funding. We do not apply indirect to internal grant awards. This was just a curious question. I thought I'd put it in there about whether or not someone they were collaborating with used to be an affiliate member at Mason, is now at a completely other institution. They're, do they need to be affiliated with Mason? And the answer to that is no. They do not have to be affiliated with Mason if you're going to collaborate with them. And this was a really good question that we got. Not that they're actually all really good questions, but this is a question that really stemmed from the fact that there is a little bit of confusion. So in the call for proposals, it says a faculty member may not submit a proposal for both building the foundation and take it to the next level, which is correct. And indeed, for the build the foundation, it says that a person can be only on one build the foundation application. And for the take it to the next level, a faculty member can be on no more than 2 proposals. The question was whether or not could they be, for example, let's say, just for an example, an early career faculty member or somebody that's doing a new line of research is going to be the PI on a build a foundation, but a collaborator for somebody else that's doing a project that would be appropriate for take it to the next level. Could they do that? And the answer to that is yes. We were silent on that, which is what the confusion was. And so the answer is yes. Someone can be a PI on a build the foundation and only one build the foundation, and be a collaborator on a take it to the next level. One of the things that we could envision, for example, doesn't have to be always true, but we could certainly envision a time where an early career faculty member wants to do a build the foundation and then also serve as a collaborator and take it to the next level. And depending on the relationship with the person who's the PI, could serve as a mentor in terms of how to build a kind of scalable research. One of the questions has to do with whether a training grant or project would be appropriate for seed funding, or is it only for research? And again, I want to be very clear, it's just for research, scholarship, or creative activity that would lead to additional larger external funding. And consistent with the call, the opportunity as described in this particular one to do a training curriculum to address gaps that are needed would be appropriate. Again, the caveat is that the opportunities are really seed funding where the project itself is not the end. It is to seed a project for which you have the potential to get additional external funding at some later point in time, and with the support of the Office of Research, Innovation, and Economic Impact as needed. Question whether there's a preference for a multi-Mason PI or an individual PI. There really isn't. It really depends on the project you're proposing. Again, for take it to the next level, should be multidisciplinary because we believe that complex scalable problems require expertise and experience from different disciplines. But you can do that as different collaborators. You can have a senior PI and some senior personnel. You can have a PI. There is always one named PI, and then a co-PI if that's a role that you think would be appropriate. The other question has to do with what kinds of things could be included in the budget. Is PI support allowed? How about travel? A stipend for a graduate student? And the answer to that is, again, yes, in many ways. The applicant should budget what they think is needed to complete the seed funding. Really budget appropriately. There is salary support for PIs, and others is indeed allowed, as is travel, for example, for data collection. We have talked about the fact that really travel to meet with collaborators to discuss the project probably isn't the best use of the funding, because we really know that we can do this now remotely. We can do it well by a Zoom as we're doing here. Travel to a conference would need to be justified in terms of how such travel and that conference would strengthen the application for an external seed funding and meet the goals of the project. International travel would be hard to justify. I can tell you that again, unless the data that you collect is only in a certain place, and then you'd have to justify that. This is a very long answer to 2 questions, and this has to do with whether or not you should use your college's sort of grants administration department or the Office of Sponsored Programs, whether or not you should use the Office of Sponsored Programs Excel template. And it really is up to you and your own individual college. That is whatever the resources are of your college. If you want their help in helping develop your budget, again, I would speak with your individual colleges. We have said in both calls that we think it would be terrific if you could speak with your dean, associate dean for research, or associate deans in your college. Let them know that you're considering this internal seed funding. We're often asked, oh, I wish I had known that my faculty member was going to do that. You don't need a letter of support from them. Matter of fact, the only letters are really letters of collaboration, but it is good to let them know that you are considering this line of research. OSP is, you don't need to go to RAMP or to use OSP or even use the OSP template for these budgets. You certainly can, if you're comfortable, not RAMP, you certainly can use the template if you're comfortable with that, but you don't have to. And OSP is not required, and please do not put this internal application through RAMP. We are not using that application management system for these. So it can be a relatively simpler budget in a table with a budget justification. You certainly can use the template if you want, or any other Excel file that you're comfortable with. But please do include a budget narrative or a budget justification. We want to find out, what is it exactly you are doing? Why do you need, 1 month of summer salary, or a wage employee, or what the GRA may be doing for a ticket to the next level? What kinds of travel, and why do you need that travel? What other kinds of other direct costs you need? So please just describe that, and that would be very helpful to us. And with that, I believe that is the last of the questions that I have that were from last year. And I do want to open it up to you now. You can raise your hand, you can unmute yourselves. Yes, there is a brand new visualization lab that I want to say it's in Research Hall. I should know that because it's in my office. Jay Shri Sarma. You can ask about that. It has not come completely online yet. There was delays in getting some of the equipment. So that is the question that was just in the chat. Another question in the chat is, do we need IRB approval before submission? That's a really good question too. The answer to that is no. If human subjects is required, we will ask for IRB approval prior to award, but you do not need it at the time of the submission. Brittany, your hand is up.
Hi. So 2 things, and I apologize, you may have already addressed one of these. I had to finish teaching a class before I could get here.
No problem.
So can you elaborate on the collaborator letters? So do we need letters from all of our collaborators?
You would need, if you are budgeting somebody, if you said that they're going to work with you, yes, we would like to see that letter of collaboration, because we'd like to know that they agreed to. It's not quite the NSF model of, yes, I'm going to do what you say I'm going to do. It could be a little bigger than that, but it's not a letter of support. It's a letter of collaboration. And that is so we know that you have actually reached out to them.
Right. Instead of just, I have vaporware.
Sort of naming them.
Yeah.
You do not need, as I think I mentioned, you do not need letters of support from your deans or your ADRs or anything like that. We would like you to let them know if you're going to do this, just because they often say, oh, I wish I had known.
The other question I had also deals with collaborators. So, okay. As we're building, we're intending this to be, building resources and building seed, projects in our labs. Can I include collaborators who are intended to be partners after the funded portions of the grant? So in my example, I'm thinking I'm going to ask for, say, part of it might be genome sequencing. And then I have a collaborator who will come on once we start doing microscopy following the genome sequencing. So her part will be after the part that was funded through this, but still an integral part to moving forward.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. Again, particularly because if you could imagine, for example, including them on an external funding. We've done this part and we want them on the next external funding, and we actually have this relationship. I'm not gonna have to go look for somebody to do that. So
Gotcha.
yes, I believe that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
There's a couple before I get to An, if I pronounce your name correctly. I apologize if I did not, and correct me if I do not. But I want to get to a couple of ones that were in the chat as well. So let me do that. So question follow up on the IRB approval. Is the question of will IRB approval at time of submission be viewed favorably? It is neither favorably nor not favorably necessarily. The only favorability is I could imagine somebody proposing, I can't imagine this in some ways, but if somebody proposed something and it seemed absolutely outrageous that an IRB would never approve that, then the reviewers would know that. And so having an IRB approval for that, which would seem unlikely, probably would be more favorable than just stating that you're going to do this thing, which is probably not going to get IRB approval. In the absence of that, if you're submitting or proposing something for which IRB approval would be relatively standard, then you certainly can, if you have it, but it's not required. And it wouldn't be any more or less favorable. It simply would be what it is. I'm not quite sure, and I'm going to ask Isidore, for visa processing. I'm not quite sure what that would be for. So if you can unmute, you can, yeah.
If you're traveling to maybe a country to collect data, and then they require you. Not everyone is an American citizen.
Right.
Not everyone has that global passport. Some people would need to apply for visas to go to some other countries.
Yeah, you could certainly put it in there, and we can sort of talk about. I think it's a legitimate cost. If we were going to approve the travel to a particular country for data collection, I think it would be the full travel costs of that country. So I would certainly think it would okay to put it in there. Again, travel internationally, given the funding available, really have to justify. But you can justify it if that's where your data is.
Okay.
And then let me just make sure that, okay, I think these came in after. So is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, your question.
Yeah, so I would like to clarify about the eligibility of the early building foundation. So if I'm not a new to Mason and also not like in early stage as by conventional definition, and the project I'm thinking of proposing is not like a brand new library, so it's related, it's a new project, but I have not been able to like successfully secure an external funding in the past. Would I be eligible?
Yeah, depending on the project, I think you would be. The question is, so it's not just that you haven't been, but that's part of it. It's that this would help you be better able to get that funding. For whatever reason you haven't been able to get the funding for it, it may be because you needed to do some kind of data collection or needed to do some kind of preliminary work, and this would help you do that preliminary work to be more successful. That is the goal of these, is to be more successful in securing external funding for a particular line of research. So the answer to that is yes.
Thank you.
I want to get to a couple of the questions that were in the chat as well as we were going down. If question is, if I received a small NEA grant for a smaller version of a project last year, am I not eligible to apply for seed funding? I'm trying to think of how the right. It is not true that you are not eligible to apply for seed funding. Let me try to get the correct syntax of that. It really would depend on, is this something for which you've already sort of gotten the seed funding and now you want to go for external funding? Is it, it may not be a ticket to the next level yet, but it certainly could be, depending on if this is a continuation of a line of research that you've been doing. You got a small NEA grant to do that, and now you want to scale that even bigger to get even more money later. Kind of depends on the level of it, but it doesn't make you ineligible. I hope
Thank
that
you.
answers the question. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Jen, you asked, you mentioned that there are 3 take it to the next level proposals that will be funded. Sure. We don't actually know how many seed funding last year. Oh, and I should know this off the top of my head. It is listed on the research development website. I want to say we funded 7, take it to the next level. And then 3, that's wrong. 7 build the foundation, and 3 take it to the next level. Somebody asked last year, do we have examples or proposals that we can share? Last year, of course, was the first year we did this, so we didn't have those last year. While I certainly do have those proposals, it has been my practice not to share proposals without the PI's approval to do that. And so those PIs and those projects are listed on the research development website. If you look in that same link where you would have gotten information about this and where the FAQs will be, you will see at the very bottom, if you're interested in last year's, click here for the awardees. It lists the PIs and the names of their projects, and you certainly could reach out to them and ask them if they would be willing to share their proposals with you. Question about whether or not you have planned international collaborators. Can funds be transferred internationally, say collection equipment, consumables, freight charges? I would need to double check on that, Brittany, in terms of just what our processes are in purchasing. It's often a little bit more difficult. I don't want to say no, but it's I don't know. You can put that in. We may have to have a conversation about it. So I don't. I've learned a lot more about purchasing in the last 3 years. But
if it can't happen, that's fine. But
yeah. Right.
Unfortunately, some of the sites that I am interested in surveying are in England and Czechia.
Right.
So
right. Okay, so I'm looking at I want to bring up my chat, so I'm going to bring this up big. So Mohammed, you asked, if I do not have proposals submitted yet, can I target take it to the next level, or should I submit to build the foundation? Does this kind of funding cover summer salary and the hiring of GRA? And can I submit 2 proposals for this call? So again, this is actually, many of this is actually in the call for proposals and in the frequently asked questions. The take it to the next level is to build on build on research that you have been doing and that is scalable. So if you haven't done any work, particularly in that area, or gotten funding for that area, I would consider a build the foundation. You are just building the research career. Again, don't want to presume that you haven't been doing this for a while, just not here at Mason. So again, it sort of depends on where you are. The funding can cover summer salary, absolutely. The hiring of a GRA, so for build the foundation, it is $50,000 for the full grant. It does not include the tuition and health insurance for a PhD or doctoral GRA. For the take it to the next level is $100,000. And from that $100,000, you would need to provide the stipend for the GRA. And then the tuition and health insurance will be covered by the grad division. Again, that is just for the build to the next level. And no, you can only submit 1 proposal either for early stage or for the multidisciplinary research as PI. In assessing, so Arthur asks, in assessing the strength of the proposal in terms of likelihood of securing external funding, how do you evaluate that? Should one offer examples of existing grants and how this will position itself? I think that would be useful. Certainly, I believe for take it to the next level, to look back on the call for proposals for the build the foundation, you're actually asked to put the URL in of external funding that you are considering. And I know our reviewers in the past have looked at to see the extent to which what you are doing is related to the call that you are proposing. So So anything you can say as to why this is needed in order for you to secure additional funding, depending on where you're looking for, would be helpful. And that is how the reviewers review or evaluate that particular aspect of it. One Lee had asked, would associate professors be considered as early stage researchers if they start a new line of research? Again, think of it as the stage of the research, not the stage of the researcher. So yes, an associate professor could get a Build the Foundation application or Build a Foundation grant because it is an area of research that they do not have a long history with. They're not scaling an area of research. They are building an area of research regardless of where they are in their career. I think I've gotten through all the questions in the chat. So I do want to, please feel free to raise your hand, open up your mics, whatever you feel is
Yeah,
appropriate.
so I actually confused about the number of proposals that can be submitted. So we now have building the foundation and take it to the next level. So can I submit the proposal to building the foundation, another proposal, and take it to the next level?
Not as PI, no.
I'm sorry?
Not as a PI. You can be a PI on one or the other.
Okay, and the
You can be a collaborator, but they should be very different proposals. That is, your collaborator is the PI, a collaborator at Mason, could be a Mason collaborator.
Okay.
So this is the question that was asked earlier. So I am an early stage research that I'm doing. I want to do my Build the Foundation. I happen to be working with another faculty member at Mason who's got more scalable research, but we've been working together for a bit. They're going to submit a Take It to the Next Level grant. I can serve as a collaborator on that with them. That is what is allowed. I mean, you as a PI cannot submit for both Build the Foundation and Take It to the Next Level.
What
that
about
clear?
one PI and the other one co-PI, or it doesn't matter?
It is, again, it would be as a collaborator in some ways. There should be a person for whom is a single PI. It can be a co-I, but it is, I assume, be very different research.
Okay.
Because one has to be in the very beginning of its research, very beginning, and one should be much more scalable. Not that it's just a bigger project, but it builds on work that has been done before, and you're taking it quite literally to the next level with external collaborators for the Take It to the Next Level.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
No problem. Yep, I feel that's more clear. Can full professors be considered early stage researchers if they're starting a new line of research? Yeah, the same thing is true as it was true for an associate professor as a full professor. Again, if you are doing a whole new line of research, yeah, you certainly, it is the stage of the research, not the stage of the research. Karen.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hey, thank you for your
hey.
question earlier.
Yeah, thanks for your answer. Yes, that was really helpful. I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around still the Take It to the Next Level. Is it like for it to be considered not early stage, does that mean that we should have publications that are on that exact topic?
Well, or close to it or related to it. Again, you're building on work that you have done before.
Okay.
Think of it as scaffolding to the next place, and you want to get to that next place. Maybe even doing a couple of small grants, and you want to get somewhat more, $100,000, which is what this is, and a GRA that can help. And then you'll be primed to do $1 million grant at the end of this because of the work that you've been doing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong. Rada or Rada, and I apologize. Please correct me.
Yes, Rada, thank you.
Rada.
So my question is about the building the foundation. Can it be multidisciplinary? Because it's like earlier stage, but I would love to collaborate with other disciplines.
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. We love that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. The fact that we've called the Take It to the Next Level, multidisciplinary, but didn't call that out and Build the Foundation does not mean that Build the Foundation could not also be multidisciplinary. And I think that would be terrific.
Thank you. And one follow-up question with that. So if the faculty member was here at George Mason University, but left, and she's still affiliated to GMU, would you consider like can we collaborate for the Take It to the Next Level?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. That's a really, really good question, because what we have said is that we want it to be external collaborators, building but again, that person is currently at another university.
Yes.
And so I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to follow up with Andre. But again, if they happen to still be affiliated with Mason, they could have left and not be affiliated with Mason. And then like on one hand, it's okay. On the other hand, it's not, which seems not entirely right. If they're not an adjunct professor being, they're at another university, I think that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Mohammed, I'll get to you in just a second. I know there was one in a couple questions in the chat. So let me grab these. Isidore, sounds like international research is at a disadvantage. I don't think it's at a disadvantage. I just think it has to be justified more. Again, it's not a lot of money that is available. And so, the question is how best to use that funding. If a lot of it is to travel, then it becomes a little more difficult, but it's not a disadvantage. And I don't mean to say that it is. And so I apologize. That's probably an error on mine. It's just what is how much money is available for you to do the kind of data collection that you want to do. Arthur asked, can you be taking it to the next level? You don't have grants for that work, but have written and published in it. Do you need to be already receiving some kind of funding to take it to the next level? It's without knowing the specifics, I think not. Certainly, it's not absolutely required. You should be building on work that you have been doing for a while. Some of that could be unfunded, for example. And so I don't want to presume, and this is often certainly true in some of our other non-STEM related fields, for example, in some of the humanities, you may be doing writing or work that has not been necessarily funded or funded at a high level. But you have publications and are ready to take that to the next level to get some funding. So no, I don't think you're precluded from doing that. Again, just want to know that it's scalable, that you're taking a body of research and taking it to the next level of its research. Mohammed, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So are there any specific topics that this call is focusing on?
No, is the short answer.
Yeah.
For the take it to the next level, it should align with one of the three institutes. So the Institute for Digital Innovation, the Institute for a Sustainable Earth, and the Institute for Biohealth Innovation. Now, sustainability, biohealth, and digital innovation are giant topic areas.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to imagine that a topic would not fall into one of those for take it to the next level. For build the foundation, no, we don't have any specific areas. It's actually why last year we had 50 reviewers because these are all externally funded. I should mention that. So for those of you who don't know, we have all external reviewers for this, people who are not affiliated with Mason, in the disciplines, in the areas that are found in the proposals. We have a better sense of that this year. Last year we had 60 proposals, and we want each application to receive 3 reviews from 3 reviewers who have reasonable expertise in that area. And so we searched high and wide for reviewers that would have the necessary expertise. One of the things that I think I have in the call for proposals at some place, if you have a reviewer or someone that you know that you think would be a terrific reviewer for your area of research, but would not have a conflict of interest with your proposal, that is, you haven't published with them or work with them or know them personally, then please send them our way. We often reach out to reviewers to see if they'll serve as reviewers. We have been unbelievably fortunate in the people that have agreed to serve as reviewers. Kieran.
So, I have one last question. Please.
Yeah.
So regarding the ticket to the next level, can I be the collaborator and the external collaborator like be the PI or something like this, or the mission faculty should be the PI of like this?
So your external collaborator can be whatever position you feel is appropriate. They cannot be the PI of the project because they're not at Mason.
Oh, okay. So the external collaborator can be a PI, right?
I'm sorry, what?
The external collaborator from outside, like Mason,
cannot be the primary PI on the project.
Oh, okay.
Can be a collaborator, can be a senior personnel, whatever the appropriate position is other than the PI. The
Okay.
PI is a Mason, as you'll see. Those that can submit as PI have to fit within the the principal investigator policy, which is listed in the proposal.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Kieran.
Yes. So I was just remembering from last year, maybe you recall this. I got some sort of bizarre feedback from the reviewers on my proposal, and so two things. First, I'm wondering, one of the things that two of the reviewers mentioned was that, and for these two, I think it was the only weakness that they mentioned. They said I didn't include a plan for including the PhD student in the external proposal development. Which seemed oddly specific to me, and that two of them, said that. So first of all, are they, did they meet to discuss this?
They do not.
Okay. Was there a set of instructions? Like, is there a rubric or a set of instructions that's sent to them that we could see?
The evaluation criteria are in the call for proposals.
Oh, okay. So they had, because I recall, I mean, there wasn't anything about that in any of the instructions, and it just seemed like kind of a weird thing to include in something where it's a very short word count and not even enough money for a full GRA, if I recall. So, or at least with lab supplies. So
no, it's and as I will say, having served on review panels for both the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health, it is a pretty good but imperfect system. And I think that's what we have. We have fashioned this after that, with the exception of calling them together for a review panel. We have not done that just because of the logistics of that.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, we provide them with the rubric, we follow up with them. We do look at kind of the distribution across different kinds of reviewers, if they're particularly prickly. I've looked at that sometimes too. And you'll get comments, as I have as an external, when I've gotten external funding, where my first response is, did they even read the proposal?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. It may be a bit oddly particular to you. And that may be a bit of the vagaries, but what the review criteria that you are given are the review criteria that they are given.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just want to make sure. I just thought it was, that was kind of weird that
Yep.
like two of them mentioned that,
Yep.
even though it wasn't in the instructions. And then the other thing is, where I wonder if based on, I don't know if I'm the only one who got some kind of weird feedback, but I remember the other thing is that one of the reviewers said that something about me being a groundwater person and having no experience with wastewater, which is first of all kind of a bizarre critique of a proposal for starting a new line of research, right? But second, I have done most of my research on wastewater. It was in the title of multiple papers, my dissertation. Groundwater is actually nowhere except like one paper that I wasn't lead author on. So I know review feedback is bizarre, but I just wonder if maybe it could be clarified or like strengthened, the reviewer understanding of the purpose of these proposals to launch new research, because I think it has to be high risk, high reward, right? I mean, if the both of these proposal efforts, including the laying the foundation or whatever it's called, I don't have it in front of me, so
Build the foundation.
Building the foundation, thank you, is saying high reward, or with a high chance of getting external funding, but starting a new line of research always comes with a risk.
No, and I hear that. Again, we can talk more separately about that. Yeah, again, I think some of the times reviews don't get it exactly right. And so we can talk about ways to perhaps strengthen and make sure that it is more clear if it needs to be. But
okay,
yeah,
thank you. I appreciate the chance to suggest reviewers also. So that's great.
Absolutely. Yes, please do that. We really, really do want that. Again, don't serve in a conflict with you. So not someone you've published with before, but someone that you think is an expert in that field would be terrific. Jen, you asked, can term faculty be lead PI for proposals? I believe they can. I would really need to look at the, I don't have the policy in front of me. I'm happy to bring that up, but I will double check that. It is listed quite clearly in the policy. The policy is noted in the call for proposals. So you could be able to click on that policy and bring that up. It's also, I believe, on the OSP website. Other questions that people have? And I'm going to try as quickly as I can to convert these to the document that you'll find on the website. Probably won't be this week. I'm at a conference and I'm in a set of meetings this week out of the office, but we'll try to get that up no later than the next week, probably Monday. I'm happy to entertain more questions. Again, if you haven't taken a look at the frequently asked question document that's up there, please do that. Some of these questions were asked last year, and we have a bit more deep dive into some of them. And as I mentioned, this is not your last time to ask questions. Please do send them to, and I'm going to ask that you send them to the email that is in the call for proposals, resdev@gmu.edu. And the reason for that is that way they don't come just to my inbox, but both Sheila Davis, who is on the meeting with us, and I do check that email regularly and do try to get back to people. It also gives us a record of those kinds of questions, so we can, again, continually upload those frequently asked questions. When I do upload a new frequently asked questions, there is a new date at the top, so you'll know if you're getting the most recent one. And what I tend to do is I put the new questions at the bottom. So again, if you've downloaded them, they're sort of by grouping: eligibility, budget, other kinds of things, and then it becomes a bit of a free for all as I add things to the bottom. And that way people don't have to go searching for new questions. We want them to be able to find them more easily. I am happy to give people 10 minutes back in their day, but I also I'm going to hang here for at least until 3 o'clock if you have questions. So thank you, Mohammed. So let me, so Mohammed has put the policy in the chat. I love when folks help me out. So thank you so much. Brittany, you asked, I know the program is fairly new, but is there a limit to the number of times we can apply? No, there is not. So we're not, we're not quite the NIH. You only get an R01 or an R2, or NSF, where you only get to apply 3 times. So I think you're everybody's hero right now. So it's finding that quickly. See, people are starting to drop off, and that's totally fine. Again, these will be posted. Still always ask questions. I'm happy that everyone was able to join us. Delighted that we have this opportunity to help you get some seed funding for your research scholarship and creative activities. So that I am going to probably, I'm going to wait to stop the recording in case somebody has a quite last minute question. So I'll give people 10 minutes back in their afternoon. Happy to do that. Thank you all so much for your really good questions. Really appreciate it. And for your interest. Yes, please.
All right.
No, right.
That's a
Great
great question. Yeah. So you mentioned that it needs to be like one of those research centers, like related to one of those research centers that you just mentioned.
For take it to the next level, not for build the foundation.
Okay, so yeah, for take it to the foundation, can it be in the area of 2 of those centers?
So again, so for take it to the next level, it is certainly possible that, again, because there is so much overlap between these. So if you were doing something on digital health, for example, it would probably be both IBI and IDIA.
And biohealth, yeah.
Yeah, and so you can list both of them. I think it asks which are you aligned, and then we will just sort of take a look, and I'll have the executive directors do that. One of the things I will tell you that we did last year is that we did get to some finalists for each of those 3 and asked them to do a real quick pitch session with us. So it was 2 per area. So that was just something that we did, but yes, it could easily be more than 1.
Okay. And can it be for the building the foundation?
If the building a foundation, you don't have to list it. You can really, the building foundation is quite open. It doesn't have to be necessarily aligned with each of the institutes. They're very likely going to be aligned to 1 or more of the institutes, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
Katrine, is that Did I pronounce that correctly? And I know I
Thank
think
you.
there was something in the chat too. So if you did it and
Thank you. How important is interdisciplinarity?
so the either interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity is a call out in the take it to the next level. That
Mhm.
is, you should have collaborators,
Okay.
internal, well, you need an external collaborator, but even your internal folks that you are working with should be multidisciplinary. Now, last year, and you'll see this in the frequently asked questions, there was this thing of, well, do they have to be from different colleges if we have different disciplines within a college? That is certainly true of many of our colleges. So, and it's certainly in the humanities and social sciences, you've got many, many different disciplines in one college. Certainly also true in the College of Science and really across all of our colleges. And so you could have collaborators. I'm a psychologist by training, but I might have somebody in communication from the communication department, or somebody from history, and those are all in one college. That would be fine. You could
Okay.
also have a collaborator from a different college within Mason to show the multidisciplinarity. To take it to the next level, you do need an external collaborator. Again, can be industry, community partner, government, nonprofit, or a collaborator in another university.
Okay. So what about two people in the same school with the same PhD who went completely different routes post PhD?
For the take it to the next level, I think we just have to describe why it's how that is multidisciplinary.
What about the foundation?
The Build a Foundation does not require, while we like multidisciplinarity, we have not required that for Build a Foundation.
Okay. Thank you.
Not that we like, there's not an advantage necessarily. I think multidisciplinary is just interesting. I think you answer interesting questions by getting folks from different disciplines, or people in the same discipline that have gone in very different directions, as you've
Right.
mentioned.
That's the case here. Two PhD, same field, but completely different directions post PhD.
Sure. And again, for
Okay.
Build the Foundation,
Okay.
you don't have to necessarily call that out, but you certainly could.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Did I get to everybody's questions that were still in here? I think so. And for anybody else that's still on the call, if you've got questions, let me know. If not, I am going to stop the recording.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. It was very helpful.
Oh no, delighted. Thank you for your interest and for joining and for your questions.
Of course. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah, I want to say thank you too. Appreciate the time.
Yep, absolutely. This is the fun part of the work I get to do. Actually, most of my work is fun because I help people get grants. But
we hope so. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. I am going to stop the recording. Do feel free to ask any other questions at the email resdev@gmu.edu. Thank you.